What are we worth? A healthy person just going about their lives appears to make very little money for the corporation as it goes. It would appear that the vast amounts of money they make from us is carefully engineered to be that way, by means of shopping and consumerism, food and pharmaceuticals, addictions and interests, employment, education, finance and healthcare. Those four are where they ended up getting us all in place, captured by one arm if we happen to escape another. People having turmoil or confusion in their lives helps any one of those things take hold. So just like the emergency that was created to usher in a new way, so it was before this. They ushered in categories and standards to measure and test everyone by, and then to decide if you were productive in their scheme of industry. And by productive, I don't just mean a good worker, or someone that pays their taxes and contributes. I used to think that's what it meant. But now I realise they have used so many sections of society for so long, we all get used for purpose when needed. And if we start to group, or notice the play, they shake things up and destabilise the foundations of society, or at least for that group who is becoming a problem to them. Black Wall Street was a power move, I believe, for this type of thing. A community getting their shit together and growing, looking as if they could compete. Oh look, taken down in a terrible display of power. Anyone who tried to better things, either for their own community or a wider focus, gets taken out. Either by way of elimination, being discredited, or publicly destroyed. And sometimes just by way of threats, or possibly an offer of joining the juggernaut that seeks to dominate. Some will have a price I'm sure they can be bought for. If you weren't already aware though, the business model being put forward for the future, where we are the end user, is pharmaceuticals. An industry that has grown to be worth an eye-watering amount of money, but is wholly dependent on you and me, and everyone else being pumped full of chemicals that they decide we need to have. To make them more money and to keep people on a hook, dangling and waiting for their next hit. A temporary illness and problem doesn't give them any stability or overall control. It's a small amount of your life they get to be involved in. Unless, of course, they could find a way to make sure you got sick and unwell, to guarantee they would have a customer base and continued market. And then, if they could find an extra way to make sure you required all those drugs and prescriptions on a daily basis just to have a normal life, well, that would be the holy grail for them, surely. Because in that long-term state of illness and slow decline, they have built another industry to look after you within that, which unfortunately now seems to be just a cover for a rather slick harvesting program of your life, time, assets and health. And they then get to have your body parts after if they so choose to keep experimenting on you after death and using you for other purposes. It's truly horrific what goes on within that whole setup, and now we realise in the outer reaches of it too. Hospitals, care homes, orphanages and social care, schools, charities and other methods to get people. And yes, this may sound paranoid on the face of it, but with everything that is going on, I will go with the idea that it is not whether you are paranoid, but whether you are paranoid enough. But to have ultimate control, they go through the children, and always have. And why they were probably always so against the gypsy folk in this country, who seem to have no need of being in the system, and now I can see why. It starts with the birth certificate, to get your children registered, and of course the census, another crafty way to update the Doomsday database. But once you have the birth registered, how do you get to keep tabs on that family and child? A system of school and education, which is then offered free and deemed necessary for society to attend. Laws created to make it so, punishable by fines and even prison for breaking them. Then they offered free money to people, just for having them, you know, to help with the upkeep and maintenance costs, of which they get to decide. Child benefit then meant nearly all births would be registered, as people thought the government were just trying to help. But when you realise they engineered most of the conditions people found themselves in, by way of dodgy landlords and landowners, making sure they bought all the land, owned all the houses, and kept people in poverty. Sound familiar? Then they swoop in and make it look like they want to help, by introducing lots of laws and regulations to sort out the housing and the nutrition and the health of the more unfortunate in society. I could be talking about now, but I am not. I'm talking about Victorian England. Literally, same shit, different day. And has been said before, the only difference between now and then is we don't wear top hats anymore. Yet you can see how easy it is for the people pulling the strings to always make sure the board tips in their favour. People are easy to fool, it would appear, with very little thought going into the motive and intention of someone or something. But people are their cash cow, and without people to tie into these systems, they don't exist and can't function or create the endless streams of money they require to dominate the commercial world. That's why they don't like small holdings, or family units, or communities, as they pose a threat, but potential threat to the machine that requires something to feed off. They need energy and attention, as well as your physical allegiance, so we'll try any and all methods to make that so, by way of technology, laws, restrictions, ideals, and propaganda. And as adults, we must accept that we have been through that system ourselves, and been labelled, categorised, numbered, and processed through their society, so they can medicate us, educate us, and then harvest us. Whether that be organs, time, data, assets, taxes, or whatever else we are deemed good for in their human ant farm. And each successive generation that breeds and registers its offspring is continuing to feed the machine, with a new, tighter regimented structure than before, of digital registration, implants and monitoring, to make sure you don't go astray, or have other ideas outside of their vision for your life. While they claim to embrace individualism, they seek to eliminate it, but use it as a weapon or shield when needed to further their cause. But like everyone else along the way, their cause or thoughts mean nothing to them, and are a convenient tool who will be thrown under the bus when it has run its course.